Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. I know we've kind of taken a little bit of time off from sewing with the last couple of videos, but it's time to go back to sewing. However, I'm not really sure what I want to sew. I don't actually have any events coming up. Well, that's not true. I have a Regency event, but that's the only event I have coming up because I made the really tough decision recently to not actually go to costume college this year. Just a whole lot of different factors working together just made it so that it didn't seem like costume college was the right thing to do this year, which of course now I'm having like regret about and everything too, but in any case, I'm not going to costume college, which means I'm having a hard time figuring out where I'm going to wear things to and therefore what to make. So as I mentioned, I do have a Regency event that is coming up. That said, I feel like I have so much Regency already, and although yes, I did just buy fabric to make a Regency dress when I was in Canada, it's kind of like the bottom of the list of things that I actually want to make. And I'm having a hard time getting any of my like sewing mojo in for making other eras of things when I don't necessarily have an event. Even though I have all of this new fabric that I'm really excited to use, it's just feeling weird at the moment. And so today is May 13th. I believe that the last Joanns are closing in a week or two here. My closest, like my home Joann's, already closed a few weeks ago, but there is one left that is about 20 minutes away. And I think what we're gonna do this week is we are going to go to that Joann's and buy fabric, random fabric, like just stock up on whatever, and see if something speaks to me to make that something. And if they've already sold out of all their fabric, which is entirely possible, then I guess we're making a Regency dress. But let's go to Joann's and see what all might be left and see if inspiration strikes. Well, I guess that answers that question. 13 days left of this store. So as you can see, this whole front section is empty, but there's still a good amount of fabric over here. 60% off. Let's see if we can find something. Wow, I actually found some 100% cotton twill in navy. I think it winds up being about $6 something a yard. That has potential just to go into my stash, even if not for this project. Got some of this Draper James stuff from my Joann's before it closed, but it's tempting to get more. The thing is that it all kind of looks like cotton, but it's not actually all cotton. This Draper James cotton feels like so nostalgic 1990s to me. I swear this is a really similar print to a Flower Girl dress I wore when I was 5. It's almost tempting to remake that Flower Girl dress, to be honest. Or maybe I can make something fancy. I kind of don't like that this is like on a off-white net, but I love the rhinestones on it. Or there's this sequin, this white sequin. I have pink sequin it just like this at home. I could maybe combine them too. Or maybe I should go crazy and get one of these glitter fabrics I've always been tempted by. The problem with these is that they shed. You can see a little of the glitter. It's actually less than I thought. Oh, there we go. Yeah, they shed glitter. I should not. It's just, those probably shouldn't exist. There's some very Snow White-esque fabrics. I could make a Snow White cosplay. Most of this wall is all knits, but I just don't think I want to work with knits. I do something very silly and make a cute dress out of like rainbow sugary treats fabric. It's pretty cute. Here's the last of the Disney fabrics. There's a cute Alice in Wonderland in here, but I don't think there's very much left on it. And it's got a white backing, which I feel like is always harder to make. But like, look at that print. That is adorable. That's tempting. Oh my gosh, Barbie fabrics. Maybe I should make a Barbie print dress. That would be really cute. Love this plaid with the gold metallic stripe, but there's like just a tiny bit on there. I don't even think there's enough to get a skirt out of it. Actually still a decent amount of cottons left. I'm surprised there's this much left and that it's only 60% off when it's closing in 13 days. Surprisingly, there's even a decent amount of home dec left. More than I would have expected. Okay, the cut counter closes in 10 minutes, so I have to make my decision, but these were all of my like potentials. So I'm gonna go dig through and figure out what I'm gonna make. So I heard that there was a rumor amongst some of the employees that discounts might be a lot bigger tomorrow, like 80%. So I was good. I only got 2 fabrics. I got that one. And then I did also get the blue matte satin. I didn't get the yellow for like a whole Snow White thing. It was crepe satin. It wasn't heavy enough for a skirt. So the blue will be good for Snow White at some point. But that's not what we're gonna make this week. We are gonna make my 5-year-old flower girl dress in my current adult size because it is pretty similar. I will pop up a picture right here of what the flower girl dress looked like, and I think this is going to bring me a lot of joy. So fabric did not go on sale the next day. However, it did go on sale a few days later. So hi Cookie. So although I didn't get to get any of the fabrics that I had planned to, that I had kind of left in my cart, I got all of these fabrics. Basically all of those, the blue, the purple, the black, the blue back here, and the pink with the flowers. Everything else I think I had already had, but this is my Joann's haul from all the closing Joanns. I am home with the fabric and it has been pre-washed. So let's talk about the design and the pattern and everything for this project. So I am going to be kind of making this as like a grown-up version of my flower girl dress from when I was 5. And as you can see by looking at this dress, this is what is called a trapeze dress, meaning that it basically fits around like the shoulders, the yoke, the neckline area, and then just flares out. Obviously, that is not a style that is going to work for me. So I'm going to be making this with a fitted bodice. The other thing that you might see on this is that there's kind of a like, it's not a ruffle, but it actually almost looks like it's a tuck, but I think it was a separate piece of fabric that was down around the hem that made it look like it was multiple layers. I don't remember this dress actually having multiple layers, and I don't remember if it was a tuck or if it was just like a whole separate piece of fabric. I think that I am going to translate this into a ruffle because you know me, you know I love ruffle dresses. And then we've got our puffed sleeves and we have a sweetheart neckline. It has that yoke, but because I'm not doing this as a trapeze dress, we're going to lose the yoke. We're keeping the sweetheart neckline and we are going with the puffed sleeves. So basically what that winds up coming out as is something kind of similar to the dress that I'm wearing, except with puffier sleeves. And probably maybe less of a ruffle in the skirt. I know you can't see it, but this does have a ruffle in the skirt. If you've been around my channel for a while, I made this back in 2021 or 2022. I will find that video and link that up here and down below in the description as well. But yeah, this is actually made out of Simplicity. In my pattern, it's 11333. That's one of the weird Simplicity numbering systems. I don't know what the other number is for this pattern, but you know how sometimes, well, RIP Joann's, but you'd have patterns up on the pattern table in Joann's and then also in the drawers, they numbered them differently. So the ones that would be like up on the table would have weird numbers. The ones in the drawers would have different numbers. So that's what's going on here. There are some changes that I had made to this pattern when I used it last. I mean, like for example, I already have my mock-up here. However, I think there were additional changes that I made from this to this. So we're gonna have to compare this and see. Like, I'm pretty sure this neckline is way higher than this neckline. And frankly, I might even cut this down a little bit more. It's gonna be close to this. And then obviously, as I mentioned, we are changing the sleeves entirely because I don't want this sort of like 1940s sleeve where it's fitted around the bottom. I just want more of a standard puffed sleeve. But we are going to be able to use this as our jumping off point, which will be good once I compare it to this and see. Yeah, I think this neckline's a little bit higher. I think I cut it down a little. I haven't watched that video back. One of the other things that I had changed about this in the first place is that this dress is actually meant to be buttoned up the back. I did not do that for this. This actually has no closures. I was going to put in a side zipper and then realized that I just didn't need it. So I'm going to do the same because it worked well enough for this. It will work well enough for that. Frankly, for me, a lot of times a side zipper irritates my arm because it just like rubs on my arm wrong. And so I would rather, if I can get it over my head, boobs are squishy, you know, it's not that hard. So I would rather just do it that way. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use that pattern. So the first thing is gonna be that I will have to make up mock-up because I don't know exactly what all changed between like this and this. Like I think I shortened the back too. I should probably watch that video back. But yeah, I'm gonna make a mock-up and ideally be able to use the mock-up fabric as the lining. That would be my goal. And then we can just go ahead and make the whole dress. So I'm starting on cutting stuff right now, and I just wanted to go ahead and like cut out the skirt while I'm working on the bodice mock-up. And I have decided to make one small change from the skirt pattern to what I'm doing. And that is that the pattern actually calls for straight panels for the skirt. I think it calls for 3. I did 3 on the Dumbo dress. Actually, to be honest, looking at it, I think it's like 2 on the fold, but I just found that that's not going to be full enough for me. So for the Dumbo dress, I did 3 full panels. But what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to make them 3 A-line panels and have it basically so that the waist gathering is about 2 times the size of my waist instead of 3 times, which is what it would be if I just did straight panels. And then it will flare out to the full width of the panels. I just think that's going to be nicer and cuter and a little bit more childlike and spring-like to have a more circular skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and get my skirt panels cut out. I think that I can do all 3 of the skirt panels from this shorter cut of the fabric because I didn't have enough all in one cut. And that will leave me actually probably way too much fabric. But I have a really, really long cut that I can get the ruffle and the bodice and sleeves out of. So I guess I will have fabric to spare. My skirt panels have been assembled here, and I have just added the pockets as well. I just made the pockets out of cotton sateen. I did all of this in what I call the usual way that I make all of my skirts. So each side of the pocket goes together with like one side of the skirt panel, and then you put those together. I've showed this before, but it is just kind of the standard way. This is again a 3-panel skirt. So this is the front panel, and I have just pressed the pockets towards the front. Now I'm going to run gathering stitches around the top, and then this gets to hang out and wait for a little bit until we have the bodice and until the hem drops out on the bias. I did, as I was cutting it, I actually kind of curved up just a little here at the bias area, but it does tend to be that a little bit more bias drops out, so I don't want to attach the ruffle yet. The ruffle, by the way, has been assembled also over here, so there are 6 ruffle pieces, whereas there are 3 of these, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio, and I have seamed them all together and then turned my hem, which is just turned twice narrow, and then run 2 rows of gathering stitches around the top and pulled those up, marking in the centers, of course, before I pulled them up, so that I can match them over here to the skirt. So that's going to hang out for a little while again until the bias drops out of the seam lines over here. So let's go ahead and run our gathering stitches around the top of here and let that just hang out on the dress form for a day or so. So I have my bodice mock-up on here. I have not yet done the darts in the front because I remember having an issue with the darts in the Dumbo dress, and I want to just kind of do them from scratch as opposed to follow the darts that I had marked on the old pattern that maybe gave me issues. I did already do the darts in the back, and as you can see, I have all of my seam allowances, darts, etc. facing on the outside right now. So that means that I can just stand in front of a mirror and pin my darts into place, and hopefully everything will be good there. I did wind up cutting the same neckline as the Dumbo dress because I didn't want to guess at how low I wanted it. I am going to make it more open than this because I do want this to be a little bit more summery. I'm going to keep the same sweetheart shape, but I am going to go lower with the neckline. I was debating about lowering it in back too because it's really quite high in the back, so I think I might bring that down a little bit. It currently is a square neckline in back also, and I think I'm going to make that a rounded neckline. So I'm going to stand in front of the mirror and like pin lots of stuff, draw lots of new lines, etc., and get this to fit me the way that I want it to fit me. I have opened up the neckline. It still needs to have like the seam allowance go away, but this is the new cut line, and I have also scooped this out just a little bit so you can see I rounded it out, just kind of making a more summery neckline. So now it's time to go ahead and pin all of the darts out. All right, I have my darts pinned here. I do want to check to make sure that they are at least relatively even. Yes, I know bodies are not symmetrical particularly, but the thing is that with the way that I have this on, since this is also going to become my lining, to be honest, I am not positive. Actually, I think the way that I have it right now is the way that it's going to fit on my body. So I don't actually need them to be identical, because I can actually use this. Usually when I am doing like a mock-up and stuff, there's so many times where you're going to go through and it's like, okay, well, when you try it on, this is the right side, this is the left side. But then when you transfer it to other things, it switches. So actually the way that I have it right now, the interior of the sateen is the inside, so I can actually keep these as my exact darts and just make this fit exactly, which is pretty cool. I do have a little bit of bagging out in the upper back over here, It's not really something that I can fit on myself very well, but it might be something that like by the time I get to the final seam that I try and fix. But I think as it is right now, I'm going to go ahead and draw in my dart lines with a friction pen, and I am going to then just cut out the actual, because this does look like it fits really nicely right now. But the one thing that I do want to check as far as symmetry goes is that the darts are ending in the same place, so that like this is the same level on both sides and that these are the same equal distance from the center front. So that's something I'm going to check, but otherwise I think we've got our fitted mock-up slash lining. So I have just folded this in half, matching up my seam lines, and from that I was able to make sure that the darts match at the bottom and also I guess on the top or the armpit. I also wound up just taking in a little bit of the arm's eye, because one thing on the Dumbo dress was that it was always digging into my arm around here, and so I just took down a little bit, which I then wasn't sure how that correlated to the other side of the dart. So I've just taken it down here for now. I'll match up the other side once the dart is actually sewn, but there is all of that. So now I could go ahead and take that all apart and cut out the floral fabric. The bodice pieces are assembled here and it fits really well. I don't think there's any other tweaks that I need to make. So that means I can go ahead and bind off the neckline and do the sleeves and then add the skirt to it, which is hanging over there. The skirt is still in the two pieces. It's still ruffle and skirt itself. So I'm going to wait probably to add the ruffle until after I add the rest of the skirt to the bodice. But the bodice is good. So my sleeves are just going to be a standard puffed sleeve. I am pretty positive I'm going to do elastic in the bottom, assuming that I have elastic. I have not checked. If I don't have elastic, then it's going to go into a fitted band, but I would prefer to do elastic. So it will kind of be like this dress right here, but I'm not making the sleeves quite this large. So they'll be a little bit more able to like fit into a sweater, etc., because I can't fit those sleeves into a sweater. So a little bit smaller than that, but still a nice little puff. And I'm going to go ahead and draft that up. I have like a puffed sleeve pattern that I use. I don't remember what number it is, but it's from an Alice in Wonderland pattern. And I kind of use that as my base and then just like make it smaller or make it bigger depending on what I want. That just helps me to not have to draw it completely freehand, and gives me kind of like a guideline of this is what sleeve shape looks like. Now make new sleeve shape. So yeah, I'm gonna go make a new sleeve and add the sleeves to the bodice. I don't think I'm gonna do a mock-up. I should probably do a mock-up. I'll do a mock-up out of, actually I wasn't actually gonna line the sleeves. And I have a lot of this fabric. I'm gonna make one sleeve and not do a mock-up and see if it's the right shape. I am tempted to make both sleeves and just go with it because I feel like puff sleeves are pretty forgiving. If you're doing a fitted sleeve, make all the mock-ups, seriously, but puff sleeves are really, they're very forgiving. So I might just make it out of the actual fabric and hope that I like them. You're going to have to bear with the air compressor noise because my neighbors are doing yard work, but I did decide to actually kind of make it as a mock-up and just do one sleeve for now, just like cut it out and run gathering stitches around the bottom and the top and set that in. Because the sleeve shape just looked really weird when I kind of looked at like the measurements of what I thought I wanted. So therefore I decided let's go ahead and do a trial at first. And I do think it's not quite right. So basically the inner portion of the sleeve, the seam, I think wound up being 8 inches long, whereas the outer portion was actually 17 inches tall. So it's a huge difference. And so basically the sleeve shape curved both at the bottom and at the top. So, and then this was 26 inches around, by the way. In some ways, part of me almost wishes that I did go bigger, but I want to get this in a sweater. So I'm glad that I didn't go wider than 26 inches, and I'm not going to recut this wider because if I went wider, it really wouldn't fit in a sweater very well. However, I think that the puffiness is just weird. I think for one thing, I actually want it just a little bit shorter, though as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about the fact that when you do an elastic sleeve, if you don't want to like bind the bottom and put elastic through the binding, then you need to be able to turn this up twice a little wider to go around elastic. And have I checked to see if I have elastic yet? No, I haven't. So I really should be doing that like right now. So I'm gonna check and see, because otherwise we're doing a gathered bottom sleeve into a fitted band. let's go see what I have on hand. I have two pieces of elastic that are similar, as in they are the same width, and they seem to have the same elasticity, but they are very much not the same. One of these, it almost feels like cottony, this more neutral colored one right here. And then this is kind of a more standard elastic. So clearly I need to order elastic. I've been meaning to place an order from Wawak, so I guess I will just add that on there. I assume that they have it. But yeah, this should do for now, as long as this doesn't like change the color through the fabric with the fact that it's darker. Yeah, no, this fabric is thick enough. It's quilting cotton that I don't think we're going to see a color discoloration, especially where the fabric is bunched up around the elastic. So we should be good there. So I can do just the double turned at the bottom. So that still just begs the question. I think that with it going to have a double turn like that, I think that the inner length is actually good, but the outer length, I think that it's just too much. It's like falling over the edge. So I think I'm going to chop just a little bit of that off down just at the bottom, and then put the elastics in, cut out the other sleeve obviously, but put the elastics in, because I just don't think that we need kind of all of that excess length over here. I think we can get rid of probably an inch and still have a nice poofy sleeve that won't just kind of fall over the bottom of the sleeve. So yeah, I'm gonna do that, cut out the other one, and set my elastic edge sleeves. So I took 1 inch off of the length over here, like kind of on the longest part of the sleeve. I honestly think I can go even a little bit shorter. I'm not sure whether I want to do a 1/2 inch or if I want to go another inch, but it's still kind of just like falling over the edge. And I know also that if I had more gathering up here, that it would kind of support itself better, or if I put in a liner or something like that. Again, I don't really want to line these sleeves, and I don't really want to cut them bigger because of the whole sweater situation. So I think that I need to cut off, maybe I'll just go for 0.75 inches and just shorten that a little bit more to make it just not quite so droopy. All right, I shortened the sleeve by just shy of another inch, just because I had drawn the inch in line and then it didn't really quite look right. So it was just shy of that. And I think it looks much better. So that looks like a win. I'm gonna go ahead, take this apart, cut out the other sleeve, and then put the sleeves back together. These sleeves are attached. I had meant to bind the neckline before attaching the skirt, but I got overeager about attaching the skirt. So the base part of the skirt is now attached to the bodice. So the next 2 steps are, 1, bind the neckline, which I'm just going to do with like store-made bias tape, and then 2, check to see if the bias has dropped out of the skirt anywhere, and if so, level that off. Once that's complete, the ruffle can then be attached to the skirt, and at that point the neckline would also be done, so therefore the dress will be done. So I'm going to start with the neckline, then I'm going to move on to see if that bias has dropped out, and then add the ruffle, and then we will be done. The dress is done, and I'll show you that in a minute, but I also thought it would be cute if I made a little hat band so that I could kind of recreate my picture. I don't know if the original had a bow, but this one does. It's literally just like pinned right here. It's a band of fabric that I did finish, but then I just kind of pinned the middle part to hold it in place. And let's go put everything on. So overall, I am super pleased with how this has turned out. I did wind up adding the belt just because I prefer even more waist definition. I think that this belt I made for maybe the tulip dress or maybe something even older. And I was honestly a little bit concerned as I was making this that this would look like the tulip dress, which if you don't remember is this dress right here. But I think that they still look actually very different, even though they're kind of a similar-ish floral. But yeah, it's super, super cute. I did realize as I was literally getting dressed today that at one point my original dress had a bow on it. But in one of the other two pictures, there's definitely no bow on it anymore. So I don't know if that was something that could like be taken off or what. I thought about adding it last minute and I just did not like the look of it when I kind of mocked it up with just like a folded piece of fabric. So I have opted no bow. I do like the hat though. I think it's really cute. I can see myself going on some sort of like a, you know, flower garden adventure with the hat and everything because I think that it's adorable. And I think that the fit has been much improved for this dress versus the Dumbo dress. There are two things that are just like a little bit weird. One is that this elastic is definitely a lot looser than this elastic. I can't tell which one I like better. It's just weird that they're different. So probably what I will do is I will tighten this one up a little bit just to match this one. I also am just feeling like this armscye is still just a tiny bit high only on this side. They're cut exactly the same. This one's fine. This one just feels a little bit like pitty, like into my armpit. So I may or may not change that at some point. Depends on how much it bothers me. For Dumbo, I did wind up changing, like trying to take out the armscye like 2 years later, and yet still it is much more uncomfortable than this one. So this fits way better. I think that the darts look really, really good on this one too. The fit is excellent. It's super fitted, but it still is able to be pulled over my head, which is fantastic. And I love the ruffle, and I love that I've made this one A-line. I think that that really makes a difference for kind of bulk around the waist and also spinability, which of course is so important. So yeah, overall this was a definite win. I am going to be getting back into historical sewing next week with a 19 Teens project that I've talked to you guys about before. You can see a little bit of the fabric right here in the corner. But this was a nice little like getting back into sewing after a couple of weeks off, and I really like this, and I know that I'm gonna wear this a lot. Like I'm planning on wearing it for the rest of the day, and it's gonna be a regular circulator in my wardrobe now. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have links to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!